Love is all we live for. Love is all we live for. Love is all we live for.
This is Cameron Ember, your host, and this is the second episode ever of Bad Relationships, the podcast. So, Debbie, we're doing a podcast about bad relationships, obviously, and we're kind of low energy. I think because Jessica went on Wellbutrin today, and she's like all, I don't know, when I took Wellbutrin, it was like crack, you know?
Me too. I was like, I really, like, I could have humped a telephone pole. I was like vibrating, and like, the first time I went on it.
Well, I'm excited now.
Yeah.
But my bad relationship, the best story of bad relationship is, I don't even know what to call it. I guess I dated in 7th grade. The Friday before spring break, a bunch of my friends, including me and this guy, Sean, went to go see the movie The Outsiders at the movie theater. While we were at the movies, he broke up with me. So that was like Friday night. And then Monday, none of us had anything to do, so we decided we would go over to our friend Scott's house, changing names. And so we all went over to Scott's house, and Sean was there, and I was like, 13 and nervous and upset because we weren't going with each other anymore. And we were all hanging out in Scott's bedroom because literally he took us in his bedroom because he wanted to show us his new satin comforter. Do you remember those satin comforters that were like dark blue on one side and baby blue on the other side?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
I don't remember those.
That's what he had. And so we all ended up like hanging out in his bedroom, and I was sitting like at the head of the bed with two of my friends, like with our backs up against the headboard. And Sean grabbed a BB gun out of Scott's closet and started playing with it. Was like pointing it out the window, and we're all just having casual conversation. And then all of a sudden he points the BB gun at me, says, "I'm going to kill you," and then pulls the trigger.
Wow.
Him in the eye, and I like ducked down and put my hands over my eyes because I felt it. I mean, I guess that's obvious. And then I pulled my hands away from my eyes, and my hands were filled with blood. And then someone called 911, and because it was the very first day of spring break in 1983 or whatever, the 911 operator didn't believe us.
Wow.
Thought we were making prank phone calls because it was spring break. But I went into shock pretty quickly, and then somebody gave me a towel, and I put a towel over my eye and laid down and called my mom on one of those giant cordless phones. Do you remember the cordless ones, like the antenna that would hit the ceiling, basically? And told my mom to meet us at the hospital because I'd been shot in the eye with a BB gun.
Was the BB in your eye?
Yeah, it still lives. It's behind my eye, wrapped in scar tissue.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Wow. Do you have any vision problems?
Well, I'm legally blind in my left eye. I don't necessarily have it. It doesn't really affect me except for that I'm legally blind in my left eye. Like, the original injury is still there. But I can't have an MRI because I have a piece of metal behind my eye, which I didn't know that the M in MRI stood for magnet until I went to go get an MRI and was quickly escorted out.
Wow.
And then they took me to the hospital. All this stuff ensued. But so this is a guy that then broke up with me, shot me in the eye with a BB gun. And then 7 years later, I'm at a party, and he's like the hottest one there, right?
Of course.
I was about 20 years old, and I was at a party with one of my friends. Her name, we can call her Mary. And Mary and I went to this party, and it was like this big bonfire party, which happens a lot in eastern Washington, where I grew up. And we were standing around the fire, drinking beer from the keg. And I said to my friend Mary, "Who is that guy?" There was this really good-looking guy across the fire. And she was like, "Shut up, you know who that is." And I was like, "No, really, who is that?" And she said, "Oh, that's Sean McWilliams." And I was like, I'm changing names, by the way. And I was like, no way. And I was freaking out. It's like, he was so hot. And so then, of course, I like dated him. So I'm sure, I'm not even really sure how it happened, but I'm sure I just approached him at the party and said, hey, Sean, like, you know, remember me. And then we ended up in a relationship in which almost every fight we had, him shooting me in the eye would come up in some way, like that I hadn't forgave him. Like even his mom and his older sister once like cornered me at a bar and was like, you never forgave him. Like, am I supposed to? Also, am I supposed to? Really? Like, I mean, clearly I'm probably not supposed to be like living with him and thinking about marrying him either, but like, which is basically what happened. I don't know that I would ever, like, I can forgive him, I guess. I just haven't forgot. Like, he pointed a gun at me and pulled a trigger. Like, you know. But when we were in relationship, like in our adult relationship, I felt like I'd forgiven him. I wasn't actively angry with him. Our relationship was just kind of typical being controlled and real serious jealousy issues, like typical dude stuff. Or like, who's been sleeping in our bed? Who were you? You know, he would go out of town for the weekend and come back and accuse me of all kinds of things that I wasn't doing, but I should have been. I think he was accusing me of cheating on him because he was cheating on me. We were in a relationship for just over 2 years. He was pretty horrible. I had to leave. We ended up living together. And when we broke up, I left while he was at work. I had my dad and my sister's boyfriend come over and move me out while he was at work. I honestly moved from my hometown to Seattle to kind of break the habit of him. I was kind of addicted to him. I would like stalk him and, you know, do those drive by his house, see if his car was there, try to figure out who he was like dating or sleeping with and figure out where they live. Like, I was a little bit crazy.
And this was after you broke up?
This after I had to like sneak out of after we broke up. Yeah, he would push me around a little bit. He never actually full on hit me until after we broke up. I remember one night we were broken up and I was at a bar with like a friend of mine from high school, a dude, and Sean came into the bar and saw us together, like, and we weren't together, but like we were hanging out, and he came up to me and grabbed, I was wearing eyeglasses, and he grabbed my glasses and broke them in half and gave me the half that gave me my left eye half, which is my blind eye, and took the right eye with him.
He sounds really insecure.
So insecure.
My friend who I was with drove me home. I was staying at my parents' house because that's where I moved to after I left him. I went back to my parents' house that night and I fell asleep in my bedroom, and I woke up with him in my bedroom, like straddling me on top of me, yelling at me about being at a bar with another guy. And he had snuck into my bedroom window. I got him to get off of me. I was I remember, I actually, like, it's probably one time in my life where I really was terrified for my actual life. I got him to get off of me, and I ran downstairs to get my parents to get help. And it was, my dad was already up and had a shotgun in his hand when I got downstairs. It was like that the movie, right? Like the dad shows up with a shotgun. Like, but my dad is like this kind of gentle man who, I mean, shoots guns and hunted when I was a young child, but actually quit hunting because he didn't really enjoy shooting other living beings. So for him to already like have a gun in his hand is pretty crazy. It's the only time I've ever seen him like pull a gun in any instance at all. And by the time we got back upstairs to confront Sean, he was gone. He had already left. He had left out the window. He also didn't give me my other half of my glasses and refused to ever give them to me. So he left, and then mysteriously, like I grew up in the high desert where there was a lot of sagebrush and what we call cheatgrass, but it's called something else other places. Anyway, a lot of brush, basically. And so mysteriously, about 30 minutes after like him leaving, there was a brush fire near my home, which I'm pretty sure he lit a freaking fire. He's a nightmare. I think we had some casual contact, and I still stalked him after that, which is the fucking craziest thing.
He was the last guy that I was in a long-term relationship with, and he had a kid, and we broke up, and then I came out to him. I came out when I was 25. So I've been out, I'm 47, I've been out 22 years, and he literally was like, was I that bad of a boyfriend? Anyway, he stopped, I haven't seen his kid since I came out to him, because he didn't want his kid hanging out with a lesbian.
Wow.
I think he didn't want his kid hanging out with someone who experienced him for who he really was. The irony of the fact that we spend so much time in relationships that aren't great, that aren't, or not mutually supportive, respectful, and loving, that we're like missing out on all these opportunities to possibly meet that person that is a good match. I want I think in the end what I want is a loving witness, you know? And I think also one of the reasons why it was hard for me to leave is the amount of work that I would put into a relationship. And like that mindset of like that work will go to waste if I end it. That's one thing I would say to anybody. It's like, it's just not true. All that work, all of the like emotional work that you've done, all of that work comes with you.
Thank you so much for contributing to our Bad Relationships podcast.
Of course.
Really appreciate it. And take care in Seattle.
Okay, well.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.